Good morning. Want to thank everyone who came out today. Very difficult day for us, but a whole lot better than Tuesday of last week. Many of you have been involved with this project for quite some time, or many of you have covered this project for quite some time. And going into last week, we were never in better shape. We had held our gala on November 16th. It was one of the most successful events we held as an organization. The level of support for the Tesla Science Center was increasing, please. The level of support for the Tesla Science Center was continuing to increase. We had announced another installment of capital funding at the gala. The county executive was there. And Suffolk County had just announced $1.15 million towards the project. That put the total capital raised to $14 million on a $20 million project. And as many of you who were here in April when we started with the groundbreaking, demolition was active on site, and we were finally making the progress that we were working so hard for many years. We have a short video to orientate you to what has occurred, and then I have a number of folks to bring up and make available for any questions you might have. Can we launch the video?
One of history's greatest inventors had a dream to provide free wireless energy from a mysterious tower and lab called Wardenclyffe.
Tesla's planning on sending voice, pictures, power, electrical lighting by means of wireless.
The people that he counted on to help him through hard times abandoned him.
We knew things had been deteriorating, but to see how far that had gone, we had a very small window of opportunity to raise the money and save this very important place.
People spoke, really, from all over the world, saying that this place is important, this place really matters.
I think one way to look at Wardenclyffe, it's a symbol of someone trying to do something great for all the right reasons to bring about world community.
Tesla's brought people together. He's been an inspiration.
Breaking news right now, a raging fire at the Tesla Science Center in Shoreham.
3186, Tesla Science Center, fire, 5 Rainbow Road, open North Country, 1651.
Despite the valiant efforts of the first responders, the laboratory is sadly still at great risk. The water from the fire hoses saturated the brick walls. The upcoming winter temperatures could freeze that moisture, causing brickwork to break apart and walls to collapse. The fire was indeed a tragedy, but together we will see Nikola Tesla's laboratory restored.
is a building designed by Stanford White. It's historically significant. Here's a place where a scientist worked, the last remaining laboratory anywhere in the world where he worked.
I'd like to thank Joe Sikorsky for helping put that together, to help orientate people to, where we were in the project, how this started, and then what happened with the fire. I'd like to, call up to stand with me our architects and engineers, the elected officials that joined us here today. I'm going to ask each of them to say a few words. If you can, please make your way up. And as they make their way up, I want to say thank you. I want to thank the fire departments that reported to the Tesla Science Center, and Chief, and if you guys can please come up, Chief Sean McCarrick. I hope Rich doesn't mind me breaking HIPAA, but Rich Benier, who was one of the firefighters that did fall off of a ladder as they fought the fire. We have on site some of our board members. This is not new. They're on site almost on a daily basis, volunteering in a number of capacities. I know Gene Genova, who's there in the back, and Paul LaRosa was here trying to prep for our tree lighting or holiday celebration this Saturday, which is still on. But when the fire got called in last Tuesday by a community member, that was around 4:30 p.m. The fire department, and many fire departments, I think it was over 11, and over 200 firefighters were on site all the way up until midnight when they put the fire out. Luckily, we hired a security firm for overnight to secure the property. And unfortunately, around 2:30 a.m., smoke was seen again. So some embers that were, unseen the first go-around had lit up again. And the fire department came back, and they put it out after 3 hours. And then at 7:30 again, they were called to come back. Chief McCarrick was here each time. They fought throughout the night. And we were worried we were going to lose the lab that night. We didn't want anybody to get hurt. But I know they probably take every fire personally, but we really felt that everybody here on site, all the emergency personnel, they're from our community, they're volunteers, and they hold this site just as close to their hearts as we do. So a big thank you to all of them. I want to thank one of our volunteers who is also a fire volunteer, not in the departments up here. I don't know if he's here today, but Tom Ledoux, who's also on site. Tom, are you here? He's on site on a weekly basis, volunteering in a number of capacities, so he knows this site like the back of his hand, but he's a volunteer firefighter, so he speaks firemen, if that's, or fire personnel. And so he was able to communicate things that they needed to know that night during the emergency. And so I want to thank Tom for all that he does every day, but especially what he did that night. And I want to thank my staff, Doug Borge, Bill Dillon, Danielle Butler, all the new staff that came on in an emergency, worked around the clock and through the holiday weekend. Hopefully they had an opportunity to have dinner with their families on Thanksgiving, but this has been a around-the-clock operation trying to assess the damage and secure the property, and I want to thank them. I'm going to call up our historical architect, Mark Thaler, from Thaler and Associates, who can give a little bit of a review of what he encountered when he came to see the site after the fire.
Thank you, Mark.
One thing that we're certainly extraordinarily grateful for is all of the work that the firefighters did to make sure this fire get out before the building was lost. But thankfully also, Nikola Tesla's original building was pretty much fireproof for the most part. The original Tesla walls were all brick, are still standing. We have lost some of the roof structure, which will be able to be restored, and we're poised and ready to do that. Our next step is to really go through and understand just the process in the next few weeks here of cleaning out the building, making sure that the walls are secured, and keeping the water out of the building, and helping to dry it out before any damage is done to the remaining brick walls. So with that, Mark.
Thank you, Mark Thaler. Next, I'd like to call up our engineers on the project, Cameron Engineering, and to my right.
Thank you. Good morning. Michael Holtz. I'm representing Cameron Engineering and IMEG Company. We were called right after the fire and asked to come out here. We did an initial assessment about within 12 hours of the fire being put out. Our most important aspect of that analysis was to look at the structural integrity of the building, make sure that it was safe at the time. Our services will be provided in a phased approach. Initially, and most importantly, is the immediate remediation recommendations we're going to make, which include strategic wall supports, both interior and exterior. We're going to be taking a look at selective demolition of the roofing structure, and then from that, covering the top, as was stated before, so we can prevent any freezing and thawing effects on the structural support of the building. After that, we will go into more in-depth analysis of the structure and start assisting in developing engineering concepts to bring the building back to its historic nature. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. We are lucky to have the support of many in the community and local foundations who have helped contribute towards the laboratory. One I want to acknowledge out in the audience, Kathy Curran from the Robert Lyon Gardner Foundation. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for all your support of the lab building. We've had support at every level of government, from the federal level with the Safe America's Treasures grant that we were able to obtain last summer. A very difficult grant to obtain. And from New York State, we've had a number of capital grants towards this project. I want to call up our state reps for the Tesla Science Center, the people that represent this community, Senator Palumbo and Assemblywoman Giglio.
Thank you, Mark. And should I say something,
Yes,
Jody? You know,
please.
of course, you can't help it. But I think initially we need to definitely make sure that we give many thanks to these gentlemen standing behind me and all of their comrades and colleagues, because without them, this would still remain a project that is going to come to fruition. And it will rise from the ashes. Jane and I were talking about this before. That there was a fire. Nikola Tesla sustained a fire in one of his labs back in the day downtown. And he was, of course, for a few days, was quite depressed and sad and didn't leave his room. And then some musicians put on a concert for him to lift his spirits. And, of course, he became who he is today. And the fact that he was standing on this property grinding out hours to bring those incredible ideas to fruition is even more reason why we need to stay focused. And Mark has been just a tremendous steward of this property. I've represented this area for 10 years, 7 years in the Assembly and 3 in the Senate. So this is a really important historic site, not just to this county, to the state, to this country, but worldwide. It's that unique. So we will do everything we can, without question on the state level, to continue to get the funding we need to get this project to the end. So I thank you for all your hard work, and I thank these fine gentlemen and men and women of the fire services who gingerly, I hear, went through while fighting a fire that can obviously take people's lives and destroy property. So we're really proud of them as well. So thank you.
Yeah, it was devastating on the news, I think, for all of us to see Tesla Science Center on fire. It was, I was happy to walk up today and see that our brave men and women in the fire departments did such a great job, and that the structure still has integrity, and to hear from the engineers that it can be rebuilt and shored up and will continue on. Tesla, speaking to people in Albany, they say, wow, Tesla Science Center is in your district, because it's known throughout the world. And there are so many supporters throughout the world to make sure that this last structure of Tesla's is successful. And I concur with Tony that we'll keep doing what we're doing, working with the board of directors and Mark and with everybody that we can to try and get this built and get it so that our kids and our families can continue to enjoy the legacy of Tesla. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Like I mentioned earlier, Suffolk County has always been very supportive of this project as well. They had just announced a major grant for the project just before the fire. I'd like to call up the Deputy County Executive, John Kamen, and County Legislator-elect Chad Lennon. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm here on behalf of Steve Malone, County Executive, of course. And Steve was honored to have been honored a couple days before the fire, committing over $1 million to the future of this site. And that commitment stands. The future is still before us, and the investment will still grow because that application, the money that will be dedicated towards the economic development of this region, which is where the money comes from, is still important to this community. Buildings can burn down and then be rebuilt. The ideas behind them, the person, the history, the narrative that was created over 100 years ago still exists. That will continue. We have the ability to reconstruct, but because the story behind it is so strong, so important, so relevant, we know that we could all stand together and continue this journey that was started so long ago. And we're proud as Suffolk County to be part of that journey. Thank you.
So first, I want to say thank you to the firefighters who did such a tremendous job. You can look behind us and see how much of the structure is actually saved, the halls that Nikola Tesla walked through, the grounds he was on. So thank you to the firefighters for taking such care of this location. And it really is a place that is not just local, but is international. You've heard here the support from all levels of government, from the county, and Mark, moving forward, you have my advocacy moving forward, everything we can do to support you in rebuilding. It was one step back, but we're going to take 2 steps forward moving forward today. So anything you need from me, please feel free to reach out. And again, thank you to the firefighters, all of you that are here, that are not here, the care that you took, and thank you.
Thank you so much. Chad hasn't even taken office yet, but he was texting me the day after the fire to see how he could help. And then someone that texts and calls often because she's such a big supporter of this project, and I can't thank her enough, is Councilwoman Jane Bonner. Jane?
First, I'd like to thank the firemen behind me and all that were here that night and overnight, making sure what's still standing is still standing. If you look at the pictures from the Giving Tuesday email, what you see behind you looks like it's not so bad. When you look at the aerial shots, I spoke to Mark last night, it's devastating. But like a phoenix rising from the ashes, this Tesla laboratory will rise as well. We will help you raise your money. We will get you back to where you were. You have my utmost support for more years than I can count. We have 2 Jane squared. You have the town's commitment that however we can help, we will help. And we will continue and we will move along. And Tesla had stops and starts, and this project has had stops and starts, but at the end of the day, Tesla was successful, and so will the Tesla Science Museum and this organization be successful in rebuilding.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I want to thank the Councilwoman for pointing out one of our founding board members and the driving force of this organization, Jane Alcorn, who, if she has anything to say, please make your way up, and our board president, Mike Russo, our board member and former board president, Mary Dahm, and I acknowledge Jean Genova earlier, who is here every day as a board member, but also as a volunteer. Just one other person I'd like to bring up to say a few words, if he's willing to, and then, I'll close out the program, and that's Chief McCarrick. Again, it would be a completely different day today if he didn't provide the leadership that night, along with the 200 volunteers who showed up to save the lab. Chief McCarrick.
Thank you. I just want to thank all the fire departments that came out that night. We had a total of 17 fire departments and EMS agencies on site, and also some standing by at our firehouses to take over any other alarms that we had during the incident. It was a very rough night, definitely a lot of wind, rain, very cold, so it was a tough night for a lot of our firefighters and EMS agencies that night. But they did a great job, and just want to recognize all of them for helping us out. Thank you. Thank you.
So we'll open it up for questions in a second, but I do want to close that. Before I do, Mike, Jane, would you like to come up? Mike and Jane have been here also on a daily basis along with the staff. Our board is very active, and without them, again, we wouldn't be here. So if you can say a few words, where are you? Come on up.
I think the only thing I can say is thank you to everybody who has been supportive in this. Thank you to the firefighters who gave their all that night. And thank you to the people who will support us in the future. I said when I saw what had happened that night that I had hope, and I still do. And I hope that we can continue with resiliency as Tesla did. Jane Alcorn, A-L-C-O-R-N. Thank you.
I'm not too sure what else there is to be said. I mean, the overwhelming gratitude that we have for not only our local community, the gentlemen and the departments that showed up for us, our worldwide community that has been reaching out to us since Jane started getting the word out there, even before we all joined the board in the 20-aughts. It is a scary feeling to have been watching that fire on that night, wondering what was going to be left the next day. And it's call it the time of the season of thankfulness, but it is overwhelming that we're still standing in front of the building that we fought so hard from getting wrecked many years ago. So thank you.
Timing is everything. As we're dealing with this crisis, it doesn't hurt to have a board president who's an architectural and engineering professional to help us coordinate all the consultants and contractors we have on site. So as it's been alluded, and I don't think it's, hopefully it's not a secret, that the world saved this location with a world record-breaking crowd fund on Indiegogo. We raised $1.4 million in 6 weeks from 108 countries, 33,000 donors, and all 50 states of the United States participated as well. Never has an organization, a cultural institution, a museum been started in this way. It was saved from the wrecking ball with that crowdfund, and it took many years and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to start raising the capital to actually get construction moving on site. It's a complicated project before this. This is the first museum in our state's history and most likely our nation's history that's going on a brownfield that's been remediated. So with that, there is a whole lot of processes that we've been going through for permits and to get construction started, but we went through them. And now, after this fire, obviously it's been set back a bit, and we're assessing. It looks like, in a very rough estimate, this might cost us about $3 million extra dollars. Like I mentioned earlier, after the county's donation of $1.15 million on November 16th, at that announcement, we were at $14 million in our capital campaign, a $20 million capital campaign. So we had $6 million left to raise, and we were closing in on it. There was a lot of enthusiasm, and now with this additional $3 million, the total that we're going to have to raise is $9 million to complete the project. And a lot of our larger donors are asking for that number. But I'm bringing up these numbers because as we launched a crowdfund last night on Indiegogo for the second time, those numbers slapped me in the face, 369. And for you Tesla geeks out there, Tesla was all about those numbers in a lot of his research, 369. So the irony is pretty overwhelming to me. But the outpouring of support in our community, and I mean here locally, but also globally, has been what has gotten us through a lot of this the past week. And people are asking how they can help. The best way to help right now, as the end of year is coming and many people look to potentially donate to not-for-profits. We've never needed it more. We need to secure this lab. We need to stop water intrusion and further damage. And then we need to complete this project. So we launched a campaign on Indiegogo. Please help us spread that word. Donate if you can. And we are very hopeful that over the course of the next few weeks, we're going to get this project back on track. Thank you, and we'll take any questions. Unfortunately, the report isn't done yet. It's still under investigation, but they have luckily ruled out arson. So the question was, what about insurance? So there is insurance on the property. We did file notice with our insurance carrier. Understand that when you're insuring buildings without COs, the insurance value is not very high, unfortunately. So we don't think insurance will cover all of the damage. And in terms of hitting our fundraising goals, failure is not an option for us. So we have a 60-day window on this crowdfund. We're hopeful that we're going to meet the goal of raising $3 million, perhaps surpass it, but the effort's not going to stop until we complete the project. That's for Mark Thaler. Did you hear that? Being it was mostly fireproof, is there any other indication of what was the remainder of the question?
No, in terms of what was within the lab, there's nothing that would automatically have caused a fire, if that's what you're asking in essence.
The attached buildings, do you see anything that wasn't fireproof that could have been problematic?
The other buildings in the back of it certainly were flammable. I mean, those buildings had wood frame roofs, and certainly the roof on this building was also flammable because it was had wood decking and asphalt roofing.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much for joining us here today, and of course we'll be available, throughout the rest of the morning for any questions that come up. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm sorry about that. We got a real one.
There we go. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Recover.